Texas, Alabama, Georgia, across the entire American South, people are still battling their most relentless destroyer, massive herds of wild hogs that no one can fully control. They tear up cornfields, ruin grazing pastures, smash fences, and throw countless families' lives into chaos. Electric fences, once considered the last hope, have become nothing more than a weak boundary. Even warning shots no longer scare them off. With every defense failing, residents have no choice but to call us, the hunters who specialize in tracking this destructive species. We arrived at the farm early in the morning, walking across ground that had been torn apart, covered in deep, uneven wild hog tracks. The smell of freshly upturned soil still lingered. It was obvious the herd had swept through here the night before. Seeing the fields in ruins, we knew today's job wouldn't be easy. We quickly agreed on a strategy and set out just as the sunlight began to spill over the hills. The hounds ran ahead, sniffing nonstop. We followed a narrow trail leading into the nearby woods. The ground was covered in fresh rooting marks, proof that the herd was still close. Gnawed tree trunks and patches of overturned soil showed up one after another along the path. Not long after, the hounds suddenly growled and charged toward a thick patch of brush. Instinctively, we spread out, each of us taking a strategic position. From the tall grass, a full-grown wild hog burst out without warning. We raised our rifles at the same time. One member of the team pulled the trigger, the shot echoing through the corner of the woods. The animal dropped after a few final stomps. We had barely regrouped when the dogs picked up new signs. A larger herd was gathering near a patch of damp soil in the valley below. We moved in that direction, our steps quickening. From a distance, dark, glossy backs began to appear. The wild hogs were busy digging through the ground, completely unaware that we were closing in on them. We split into two groups, one circling left while the other held the right flank. Once everyone was in position, we opened fire at the same moment. The herd exploded into chaos, kicking up mud as they scattered. One large hog tried to escape through a line of trees, but I managed to cut off its path. I stayed calm, aimed carefully, and squeezed the trigger. It dropped instantly. The smell of soil, sweat, and the sound of heavy breathing blended together, creating an indescribably tense atmosphere. Just when we thought things had settled down, the gun smoke hadn't even cleared when we spotted fresh signs. Another herd was moving west toward a large feeding area that stretched to the hillside. We followed their trail, crossing patches of rough, rocky ground. By late morning, we stumbled upon a scene that made all of us freeze for a few seconds. A massive herd of wild hogs was crowded around piles of spilled feed. There were so many of them that the ground seemed to tremble with every step they took. Their bristling hair, heavy gait, and alert eyes made them look like a small army. I knew this would be the most critical moment of today's hunt. We hid behind a row of large tree trunks, each of us choosing a target. When the signal came, the whole team opened fire at once. Sharp, crisp shots echoed one after another, scattering the herd like water hitting a barrier. One hog after another dropped onto the dusty ground. Others tried to run toward the open area, but the ambush team was already waiting there. The near-perfect coordination allowed us to keep up the pressure, giving the wild hogs no chance to regroup. We swept our scopes toward the left side of the field and spotted another herd moving in. Young hogs ran among the adults, seemingly unaware of the danger closing in. We shifted our ambush positions, keeping our focus razor sharp. I found the perfect angle and dropped the largest one with a clean single shot. More shots followed in quick succession, taking down several others. As the sun began to dip, I finally let out a long breath. The number of hogs taken down today won't erase the threat entirely, but it's enough to give the locals a bit of safety for now. Dust clung to my clothes, sweat soaked through my shirt, but a sense of relief settled in as I looked back at what we'd accomplished. Today's wild hog hunt comes to an end here. Which moment of this pursuit impressed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next intense hunting story.
I still remember that morning clearly. Fog covered the entire valley, and the ground beneath our feet was still damp. We were standing on a small rise, looking at the patches of soil that had been torn up near the forest edge. The hunting dogs started barking wildly, pulling hard against their leashes in sheer excitement. Just a few seconds later, from the thick brush below, a massive herd of wild boars burst out and charged straight toward us. Their speed was so sudden that our entire team barely had time to react. I raised my rifle, my hands trembling slightly as the adrenaline kicked in, holding my breath as I waited for the right moment. When a massive boar suddenly veered left, lowering its head to bolt for an escape route, I pulled the trigger. A sharp crack echoed out, and the animal dropped instantly. But the rest of the herd kept rushing forward like a raging wave. In that moment, I realized I had just stepped into a hunt that would be anything but easy. Wild boar in this region multiply at an astonishing rate. In just a few years, their numbers have surged, spilling into farmland, tearing up crops, and even threatening livestock. Families living on ranches along the forest edge can barely sleep at night because of the constant sounds of boars slamming into fences or ripping up pastures. That's why we're here, not for the thrill of the hunt, but to protect what little peace is left in a place that has sustained generations. Right after the first shot, our team quickly spread out, moving in a wide arc around the low hill. Large, round hoofprints pressed deep into the mud led us to a narrow trail where dry leaves had been scattered. I crouched down, placing my hand on a fresh scrape. The soil was still warm. The herd had passed through just moments ago. We released the dogs and let them take the lead. It didn't take long before urgent barking echoed from the hillside, signaling that they had found the target. Reached the spot. A massive boar stood blocking the thicket, its eyes burning with anger. It stepped back a few paces, then suddenly charged like an arrow. I could feel the ground trembling under my feet as it picked up speed. In that split second, I raised my rifle, pressed the stock tight against my shoulder, and fired. The bullet hit it square in the chest. The animal staggered, took a few unsteady steps, and collapsed. I stayed frozen for a few seconds to make sure it wasn't moving, my breath coming out heavy and tight from the adrenaline. If you were in the same situation, how would you handle a charging boar? Would you stay calm and take the shot, or try to dodge out of the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. As we moved deeper in, the scene grew even more startling. Tree trunks were covered in bite marks, patches of soil had been torn wide open, clear signs that this was a gathering spot for large herds of wild boar. We climbed onto a small rise to get a better view. From there, beneath the thin canopy, I spotted several dark shapes weaving through the brush in search of food. Our team split up, moving quietly and keeping a safe distance. I chose a spot behind a large tree where I had a clear view of a boar engrossed in foraging. As it moved closer, I steadied my rifle and pulled the trigger. The animal dropped instantly, its heavy body hitting the ground.
But we weren't about to
thud.
let them get away that.
A moment later, a new signal came through our team's radio. On the eastern edge of the forest, they had spotted another entire herd gathering around an open clearing. We immediately moved in that direction. When we arrived, we saw at least 7 or 8 boars tearing up the ground. Once everyone was in position, the gunshots rang out almost at the same time. The whole herd panicked, and a few were taken down in the first volley. Another one tried to dash into the bushes, but I managed to take aim and finish it with a clean shot. After a few minutes, the forest fell silent again, leaving only the sound of the wind moving through the leaves. On the way back, we heard the dogs barking fiercely behind a line of trees. Instinct told us something was happening. We moved toward the sound immediately. A large wild boar had been pushed into a dead end, but there was no fear in its eyes, only defiance. It tried to find a way out, but the dogs had it completely surrounded. I stepped forward, raised my rifle, and ended it with a quick shot, not giving the animal any chance to fight back. As the sun slipped behind the mountains, we regrouped on an open patch of ground to tally the results of the day's hunt. For me, the true value of trips like this isn't in how many wild boars we take down, but in knowing we're helping maintain some balance in this land. Even though the struggle with these growing herds will continue tomorrow, at least today we did everything we could to protect this place. Today's hunt comes to an end here. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next thrilling adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the upcoming videos. After countless difficult ground hunts, the team of hunters finally realized one thing. Tracking feral hogs from the ground wasn't just exhausting, it was dangerous. These animals could be standing only a few meters away, yet in the blink of an eye, they would slip into the thick brush and vanish completely. Dense vegetation worked as the perfect shield, making it nearly impossible to predict their escape direction. That frustration pushed the hunters toward a bold and unconventional idea, taking the fight into the air. Across the United States, feral hogs aren't just pests. Their explosive reproduction rate allows their numbers to skyrocket within just a few seasons. A single sow can produce more than a dozen piglets per year, and as these herds grow, they destroy farmland, erode soil, and damage the local ecosystem. The annual agricultural losses caused by them reach into the billions. Controlling their population isn't optional anymore. It has become a responsibility that must be taken seriously. That's when the team decided to adopt a new strategy, using a helicopter to pursue them. The Robinson R-44 Raven was prepared meticulously, paired with a Wedgetail Industries WT-25 chambered in .308 Winchester, well known for its stability and stopping power. After all equipment was checked, the helicopter lifted off, heading toward the open plains and farmlands bordering the forest, where fresh hog activity had been reported. From above, everything became dramatically easier to see. Torn up soil, trampled underbrush, and deep tracks carved into the earth formed clear trails pointing toward the hogs. It wasn't long before the hunters spotted the first targets. On a sunlit patch of ground, several mature hogs wandered, searching for food. Their dark, heavy bodies contrasted sharply with the field, making them visible from far away. The pilot, a veteran of many similar missions, adjusted altitude and stabilized the aircraft, giving the shooter the perfect angle. When the moment was right, the hunter raised his rifle, locked onto his target, and squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out crisp and clean, and the hog collapsed instantly. The roar of the helicopter sent the rest of the animals into panic. They bolted toward patches of brush, unknowingly exposing themselves even more. The helicopter banked and circled back, giving the team a new angle of attack. Within seconds, a herd of more than 10 hogs emerged into view. They moved incredibly fast, speeds comparable to a slow-moving vehicle, but none of that mattered against the aerial advantage. Shot after shot, hogs dropped while trying desperately to flee. Others rushed into denser vegetation, but their frantic movements only made them easier to track. In this chase, the hogs simply couldn't outrun the helicopter. As the pursuit continued, the team ran into a new problem. The hogs were adapting. The sound of the rotor seemed to make them warier. Instead of running in straight lines, they changed direction constantly, slipping behind bushes and using uneven terrain for cover. Finding them became more challenging, and the hunters had to stay sharp. The pilot swept the helicopter low along the forest edge. As the aircraft skimmed the treetops, many hogs dove into heavy cover, making it difficult to keep them in sight. But with skilled maneuvering, the pilot changed altitude and widened the search pattern. From that higher angle, the team spotted an even larger herd, more than 10 hogs, clustered near moist, freshly dug soil. The shooter picked out the biggest one in the group. He steadied his breathing, braced the rifle, and pulled the trigger. The hog collapsed immediately. The rest scattered in panic, but the helicopter quickly closed in. Within minutes, the herd was thinned out, each hog falling as it tried to disappear into the brush. The hunt continued, and when they neared the main fields again, another large herd came into view. This group was powerful, fast, and tightly packed. They sprinted frantically the moment they heard the helicopter, but there was nowhere for them to hide. The aircraft swooped in from the side, offering the shooter clear angles. One hog dropped, then another, then another. The chaos overwhelmed the remaining animals, slowing their reactions and exposing them even more. As the dust finally settled, the fields were dotted with hogs weighing anywhere from 80 to over 100 kilograms. After hours of continuous pursuit, the team had eliminated around 50. It wasn't enough to change the nationwide situation. Millions of feral hogs still roam across the country, but it brought relief to local farmers and slowed the destruction in the region. Each hunt like this helps safeguard the land and gives people hope that they can reclaim control. Do you think helicopter hog hunting is the most effective solution today? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another action-packed adventure. Beneath the majestic snowy mountains of Turkey, the wild boars kept moving tirelessly, unfazed by the harsh winter. They brazenly ravaged the highland fields, making life increasingly difficult for the local people. Faced with such a situation, we, professional hunters, had to confront not only these fierce beasts but also the unforgiving weather. Could we stop their rampage? The answer could only be found in the journey ahead. Our hunting truck rumbled forward, taking the team straight to the rendezvous point. Upon arrival, I carefully surveyed the terrain and chose a vantage point with a wide field of view. The scope was adjusted with precision, awaiting the right moment. From a distant snowy slope, massive dark figures began to emerge. I seized the opportunity. A gunshot thundered across the mountains. Yet, the strength of the boars was astonishing. Even after being struck, one still tried to escape. I closed the distance, and when I stood face to face, I was stunned by its enormous size. Surely over 200 kilograms. Taking aim once more, I pulled the trigger. The deafening crack echoed, and at last, its ferocity came to an end. Before the thrill could subside, the sudden barking of the hounds shattered the silence. Sensing trouble, I rushed toward the noise. Blocking its path, I raised my gun and fired with precision. The shot landed perfectly, ending the encounter in complete control. Amidst the white wilderness, the boars grew more chaotic, retreating deep into the thickets. Along the hillside, we scanned every shadow through our binoculars. Then, hidden among the branches, another herd appeared. It was our chance. We tightened our grip on the rifles and fired. Quick, accurate shots brought them down instantly. At the same time, Finn, our sharp-eyed hunter, spotted yet another herd in the distance. He wasted no time, unleashing accurate shots that completely halted their escape. Our coordination ensured we maintained the upper hand. After a clean finish, we claimed several more trophies. Climbing to a nearby ridge, the team continued the search. Scattered groups of boars still roamed, some hiding deep in the undergrowth, making the chase more challenging. Following fresh tracks imprinted on the snow, we gradually closed in. In the stillness, another volley of gunfire resounded, marking yet another victory and our firm control over this land. But the cold grew harsher, and fate seemed unwilling to end the day's hunt. The remaining boars lingered like stubborn shadows against the snow. We gave them no chance to turn the tide. Relentlessly pursuing, one by one they fell silent on the frozen ground. Each echoing shot not only marked the climax of a tense clash, but also stood as proof of our determination to protect the crops and lives of the local people. In the mountains of Asturias, Spain, locals are struggling against the threat of ferocious wild boar herds. Fertile fields can turn barren overnight, scarred by their storm-like destruction. These massive beasts are described as both swift and savage, enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Our hunting team quickly mobilized, spreading out into the dense forests, determined to track them down to the very lairs where they hide. No matter how cunning wild boars may be, they can't escape the traps of their own habits. Trails deep in the forest are stamped with countless hoofprints, clear signs that lead us straight to them. I moved carefully, avoiding any sound that might give me away. Then suddenly, from the thick brush ahead, a massive boar burst out, fast as an arrow. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the forest. The beast staggered, stumbled, and collapsed. One decisive moment was enough to seal the fate of this fierce creature. The sky suddenly darkened, and a chill crept through the treetops, making the forest feel heavier than ever. I moved into a tangle of fallen logs, pressing myself behind a massive trunk, silent and watchful. Then, without warning, a huge wild boar emerged into view. The instant it stepped forward, I squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out, and the beast collapsed on the spot. That kind of precision only comes from a hunter seasoned by years of experience. I moved quietly deeper into the forest, each step cautious, aware of the danger lurking around me. At the edge of the woods, a massive boar suddenly appeared, its fierce eyes locked straight on me. I quickly raised my rifle, kept my breathing steady, and pulled the trigger with a firm squeeze. The gunshot echoed, and the beast dropped instantly. Had I hesitated even for a moment, the outcome could have been disastrous. Yet in those perilous seconds, I knew my duty was clear: to stop the threat before it could wreak more havoc on the villagers' crops and land. That afternoon, I moved along the forest edge and settled into a shaded spot to watch. Through the thick foliage, the dark silhouette of a massive boar slowly came into view, wandering carelessly, unaware of the danger nearby. I steadied my hands, aimed carefully, and pulled the trigger. The first shot made it stumble before it could react. Quickly, I reloaded and fired again. The second shot brought it down clean. Late in the afternoon, I left the forest and moved to the roadside, taking my assigned position. Suddenly, a herd of wild boars burst out, their pounding hooves roaring like thunder. I stayed calm, aimed carefully, and squeezed the trigger. The shots rang out, the lead boar was hit and dropped instantly. The rest of the herd panicked and scattered back into the dense woods. As the last light of sunset faded, I spotted the final herd of boars hiding near the forest's edge. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger, and the burst of gunfire sent the entire pack fleeing into the darkness. That marked the end of a long, grueling day where patience and determination were pushed to the limit. For the peace of this land, we're willing to stay awake through the night, give our all, and even face danger, just so the villagers can rest easy and their crops remain safe. The journey of facing the giant wild boars has come to an end, but the tension and danger still echo in our minds. What about you? What was the most unforgettable moment of this hunt? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to join us in the next adventure.